Hi, and welcome to the Heart of a Perfectionist podcast. I'm your host, Tegan Thompson. I'm a book lover, a chocoholic, and an INTJ living in a world filled with extroverts. I made this podcast to share my experiences and struggles as an introverted perfectionist, and to bring the inner workings of an introvert's mind to introverts and extroverts alike. So grab a cup of tea and get comfortable. It's time to unmute. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Heart of a Perfectionist podcast. It's the beginning of April. This year just keeps going by faster and faster. It's so crazy. It's finally beginning to feel like spring, which is really fun, and it's Easter weekend, so happy Easter weekend to everyone who celebrates it. This week, we'll be talking about the differences between introverts and extroverts in the way that they use social media. And I thought this was kind of be interesting because social media has found a way to integrate itself into our daily lives for people of all personality types in one way or another, whether or not you use it to post about your personal life, about a business, or if you use it to keep up with other people's lives or to just watch videos or however you want to use it. It has found a way to integrate itself into our lives, our daily lives. But yeah, that being said, there are so many different ways that people use it, and we don't all use it for the same reasons. So I kind of wanted to talk about some of the general differences between introverts and extroverts and how they use social media. But just as a disclaimer, obviously not all introverts are going to fall under one category and all extroverts are going to fall under the other. It's there'll be people who cross over into others categories, and maybe people who just really don't use social media at all. So there's always those exceptions. So the first difference is in the amount of friends or who they choose to friend. Extroverts kind of take on a perspective of the more the better. They want to have more friends and be connected to more people, and that can be for different reasons, obviously. A big thing is popularity and having as many friends as possible so that you can say, I have this many followers. And another thing for extroverts is just being connected to a bunch of people and having like all those different options of being able to meet new people. But yeah, extroverts will be friends with close family and friends, all the way to people they've spoke to once, or even friends of friends that they've never spoken to before. Whereas on the other hand, introverts tend to kind of just remain friends with those that they're close to, and they tend to have less friends for this reason. And it's not a bad thing. Obviously, it's however you choose to put yourself out there on social media is your choice. I find this a little ironic because I have quite a bit of friends actually on social media, or more than I'd like to. This kind of is because I fell into the whole false appearance of popularity back in like middle school, and like feeling like I needed to have as many friends as possible in order to be cool or acceptable, and kind of got this pressure from some friends that I had during that time. So, you know, I haven't quite cleaned out that list of people that I just haven't talked to, and probably something I should do. But yeah, if I had made social media after like middle school, high school, I definitely would have way less friends, and that kind of shows now with how I accept and send friend requests. And like sometimes I'll just get really random people who send me a friend request. I'm like, I have no idea who you are, and I'm like, nope. And I know other people who would be like, yeah, that's fine, more followers for me, or you don't know, they could be a good person, I don't know. And I choose not to, because that's not who I am. I think it's a little weird. I would rather just have people I know follow me on social media. A second thing is with privacy settings. So extroverts tend to be more open to talking to new people and meeting new people. Kind of like I just talked about with how many friends they tend to have on social media. And because of this, they tend to have their profiles and their information set on public so that anyone can see it. Anyone can go to their profile and look at what they've posted and all this and that. And even if they don't have it fully on public, they might have it where it's like friends of friends can see it. Whereas introverts are kind of more closed off to that. They tend to keep their profiles private to avoid these random friend requests and to avoid like random people stalking you and looking at all your information. I do that. I like to keep my stuff private. And that's a personal opinion, obviously, and however you want to have your information out there, it's up to you. And everyone receives consequences for that, whether that's good or bad consequences. Everyone receives those consequences. So just being mindful of the information you put out there is really important. And probably best to leave your current location and your home location and birth date and stuff like that off of social media. But yeah, again, up to you. So the third thing is how important likes are, and this is kind of a really big thing. So for extroverts, likes tend to be like a sign of validation from the people they're surrounded by, or just kind of society in general. And this kind of falls under extroverts in general, and looking for that external validation of who they are and what they do and everything. And because of this, extroverts tend to post more frequently. And it's kind of interesting because I've actually had friends tell me, like, oh, you should go like my post on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, or view my story on Snapchat, just because they want those high numbers, and because for them that is important to them. That is what makes them feel good and feel validated, basically. It can even go to the extent of where some extroverts or people in general will delete their posts if they don't get the number of likes that they wanted or expected to get, which is kind of crazy to think about. I guess for me, when I look at it, I'm like, okay, if I'm posting, I'm not necessarily posting for other people all the time. Like, maybe I want to post something and I want that on my social media account, and it doesn't matter who likes it or who sees it, because that's not important to me. But for extroverts, I have to be mindful that is. And like, I just met up with one of my friends, actually, who said that she's like, hey, yeah, you should go like all my photos on Instagram. And I was like, oh yeah, I can do that. Me in the back of my head thinking, I go on Instagram occasionally, and when I do, I don't even look at my feed. I just go straight to the videos and stuff to watch all, all of the really boring things that I find super satisfying, like carpet cleaning videos and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's important to other people that you like their photos. And so I was like, okay, yeah, I'll go do that. And I did that. But that's not something that really crosses my mind, right? Because for introverts, there's less of a desire to receive these likes. There's like not as much emphasis or care put onto it. And because of this, they'll post more infrequently. And I just want to note that in today's society, because social media is so integrated into our daily lives, pretty much everyone who uses social media seeks some sort of validation from it. So obviously, I like to see that people like my posts, or people who comment on my posts or view my stories. I guess as an introvert, though, the amount and the number of people who do those things is not as important, and maybe it's more important for me of who does those things. Like, are my friends and family paying attention to those things? Do they care? Like that kind of thing. Whereas extroverts may care more about the number and getting as many people to see and or like their posts. So yeah, again, it's just, it's human nature, and it's human nature to seek validation. And because social media is like stitched into the way things are done these days, like, I mean, every successful business and every business that hopes to be successful that I know of has some sort of social media account. And, you know, it's the way society is now. It's like you don't have social media, you're weird. And it's the way that people put themselves out there. It's the way people meet new people. Even with like dating apps now, that's how people meet like their future spouses and stuff. And it's how businesses are run, like I said. And so it's just like becomes this part of daily life. And because we seek validation as human nature, social media is going to be a form of that now, which is okay. I think it's important to remember that your self-worth is not dependent on the number of likes you get or the number of followers you have. You're so much more than that number. And, you know, the people who see you for who you really are will know that. And I think that's what is important. And the last difference I have on my list is the level of comfort in deleting friends. So for extroverts, they may be a little less comfortable in deleting friends. They might be like, oh, should I really delete them? What if they delete me back? This and that, right? And they'll often keep note of everyone who follows them and everyone who unfollows them. I had this friend in middle school, and she kept track of it. She was like, oh, I know who unfollowed me, and because of that, I'm gonna go unfollow them now. And I was like, oh, okay. You know, and it was just like that kind of, there's a lot of that mentality, I think, in general in society. But I think with extroverts, they can tend to take more offense or take things personally when people unfollow them. And so it's kind of like, oh, we're not friends anymore, I guess, in real life or something. And I don't know, because sometimes these are people that they don't talk to, or people that they haven't seen in 5-10 years, maybe more, I don't know. Which is kind of, it's a little funny to me, but I know they take it seriously. Whereas introverts, they're comfortable deleting friends, and they will do it without thinking about it. Or like snap of their fingers. It's like, oh yeah, delete. And I've tried to do that more. Like sometimes I'll be like looking at my feed and I'll be like, oh my gosh, I haven't talked to this person in forever. I don't even know this person anymore, or I never knew them really in the first place. And I'll like go to the profile and unadd them as a friend now, because like what's the point? I'm not invested in your life and you're not invested in my life, so it's just kind of like not necessary in my opinion. But yeah, there's just a different level of comfort when it comes to deleting friends, and I say that with air quotes because not all of them are actually friends, off of social media. And yeah, so for me, I'm like, okay, if I don't talk to you in person, then it's not necessary to have you on my social media, really, unless like you're someone I was close to, and maybe because of like going to school and like the distance, or just like not having the time, we don't get to talk as much anymore, then I'm like, I keep them as friends. But yeah, there's like a lot of people out there who I've talked to maybe once or twice and I'm still friends with them, and I'm like, why? I don't need to. I remember this one time I actually did clean out my friends list on Instagram, and I found out that you can only delete so many people or unfollow so many people on Instagram within an hour, because I guess if you exceed that, you can't exceed that, they won't let you. You have to wait to unfollow someone, which is really weird, but I don't know. Yeah. So there's a lot of differences. There's more than I've listed in the way that introverts and extroverts use social media. And I again want to note that there's always going to be those exceptions, and probably more in this case than you would imagine, where there are introverts who do care about how they're viewed on social media and how many friends they have and who likes or how many likes they get on their posts. And there might be those extroverts who don't care as much. They don't care to be on social media. They don't care who follows them, how many followers they have, who likes their photos, and all of this. So, there's always those exceptions, and just people use social media in different ways, and I think that's really important to remember, especially if you are someone who cares about how many people are liking your photo and stuff, because there might be a lot of people who you're close to and who you have on social media who just doesn't use social media like that. They're not really big into liking photos. Like on Instagram, I don't really like anyone's photos. I don't like anyone's posts really. Like occasionally I might. Whereas on Facebook, I'm a little more liberal. I'll like more things. But yeah, it's just people use it differently, and it's important to keep that in mind and to not take everything so personally. Because at the end of the day, you are amazing and you are unique, and how many people see that one post and like that post is not representative of you as a whole. And that kind of leads me into my last point, which is to remind everyone that social media is a highlight reel. People post the best moments of their lives, their best photos, and that's so important to remember. You don't need to compete with people. You don't need to be like, oh, this picture wasn't good enough because I didn't get as many likes as this other person, or this person didn't like my photo, but they liked that photo, so obviously it wasn't good, or whatever. We are not the same. No one's the same. every person is different in their own way, and that is going to show in your posts, because people have different faces, so they're going to post different pictures, and you have different experiences, so you can talk about different experiences. You have different ways of writing, so your description of your post is going to be different. And everyone is different, everyone is unique, and that is okay. That is good. That is good. So just keeping that in mind, and then kind of at the end of the day, ask yourself, why are you using social media? I like to ask myself this every so often, like, why am I using social media? And I actually caught myself like a year and a half ago, and I was like, I don't know. Why am I using social media? Like, what importance does it have to me? Why am I putting so much energy into this if I don't really care about it? And I actually took like a 3-month break from social media as a whole. And honestly, the best decision I ever made, because I came back to social media with no expectations, with like, I use social media for my own personal uses and for what makes me feel happy, and not as something that could put me down, because that had been where I was going. Was I was using it, and I was like finding all these flaws in myself because of it, and I had to take a step back from that. And when I did, I like looked at myself in a different way, and now I use social media in a totally different way. And that's so important. So for me, when I answer that question now, why do I use social media? The biggest thing for me is to have a voice, for people to hear my perspective and my experiences. And when it comes to my blog / podcast, to be able to voice that and put it out there so that people can see it. So social media for me is like, in the biggest, most important way, my voice, especially since I'm an introvert and I'm not really big on like verbalizing myself. Being able to put it out in a simple post without having to like talk to people is a really great way for me to like share my voice with other people. And then also kind of just to, for my own entertainment sometimes, I like to go on Instagram and just watch the videos sometimes, or look at memes. Like, it's okay if it's for your entertainment, obviously. But, just asking yourself, why do I use social media? Why is it important to me? Because sometimes that can be really reflective of where you are, and maybe you want to be somewhere else, and that can help push you to that place. So yeah, thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of the Heart of a Perfectionist podcast. If you liked this episode, or if you learned anything new, please go share it with a friend. And as always, have a good weekend, and I look forward to seeing you guys again next week on the Heart of a Perfectionist podcast. Wow.